My name is Phil Watt. I go way back with the school, actually with Mr. House, and way back when, we won't say when, but I've been here for many years and retired. But since then, Mr. House and a few of other guys on the committee, constructive committee for alumni, Spectrum Alumni Association, and we're on the web. You can look it up, and you will all, at one time, coming up in the future, you will all be, as graduates of Spectrum, part of the alumni family. The school is about 43 or 4 years old now, and we decided it was about time to enhance our scholarship fund and recognize some of our noteworthy graduates. And we have many, like any high school. Some of you this morning heard Wendy Kilby, who is a film director of animated films in Hollywood and has had some nominations for Academy Awards. Bob Downey, the Chief of Police from Saanich, has just spoken this morning, I believe. He's one of our recipients of a Distinguished Alumni Award. And earlier this week was Shanice Marcel, who is a world-class professional volleyball player. And last but not least is Andre Ng from the class of 1987, Cook's Training, amongst other things. And Andre is being honored for his role in our community, in fact in Canada, as a great entrepreneur and businessman. Andre is the CEO or president of a store that you might know in the mall called House of Knives. And he has 17 stores in British Columbia and Alberta. He wants to expand into Ontario. And presently, I get this right, Andre? He is the owner or CEO of the largest, the biggest family, independently owned kitchen and cutlery store in the world. So you have a guy that can tell you a little bit about getting into business and doing the right things for business. He even has some prizes.
Lots of swag. Who doesn't like swag?
Everybody likes swag. Andre, over to you.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks for the introduction. So, thanks for having me. Got some familiar faces here from the night demos that we did this morning in the home ec class. So, as I was trying to feel, I wasn't quite sure. Obviously, very different sessions we had this morning with the knives, and of course, everyone loves to eat. We had some great fruit salad, some garlic toast. So today, I guess my story to you guys is to give you a bit of insight of where I've been, right from high school and how I got to where I am, and then just having a lot of questions from you guys. Obviously, you guys have an interest, whether it be business or being your own boss one day. I think for a lot of you, that is the ultimate goal. Who here, by show of hands, would like to be their own boss and not have to rely on working for someone one day? Well, is that it? maybe we're not selling it hard enough, right? Being your own boss. I mean, if you talk to anybody who owns their own business, right? There's a lot of pros, but there's a lot of cons, and you have to really weigh those two choices, right? For me, it's the flexibility. Anyone who's their own boss has that flexibility. You can, as they say, the theory is you can work when you want to, not work when you want to. But the reality is, when you're your own boss, I would say you have a greater sense of responsibility. We have about 120 staff now through our company. So decisions that we make on a daily, weekly basis, those impact families, not just individuals. So you span that across 120 people, that's 120 different families that rely on what you do. So one of the things I want to do right off the bat, as I said, got a swag to go away. I want to break you guys into, how many groups can we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The question is, I'm going to challenge you with this. Currently, as you see now, what are the biggest challenges that you face, that all of you as a group face, that's prohibiting you from being successful in the future? Right? It can be anything you think. There's no bad answers here. So I'm going to give you about 2-3 minutes of time, write down as many answers as you can get as a group, right? What are your greatest fears? What are your biggest challenges, right?
Being ticklish.
Flip the paper over. Right? Some of you guys heard this if you came to my morning classes. Write down for you guys what does it mean to be successful in the future? What do you need to have? Is it money? Is it house? Is it car? Tell me what does success mean to you guys? Anyone need more time, guys? You good? Okay. So let's go back to the first question, right? Your challenges, what your fears in terms of what's preventing you, what you think is preventing you from having success. So who wants to go first?
Having no money.
Okay. So having no money. Okay. Yeah.
Connections.
Connections, lack of connections.
Yeah.
Okay.
Competition.
Competition, yeah.
A lot of steps to be successful.
A lot of steps, yeah, absolutely.
And location. Depending on where you are.
Location, okay. Great. Great answers. How about you guys? Who's your spokesperson?
Joey. Joey.
Okay, Joey, you can stand on the table if you want, right? No. Why do you stand on the floor like everyone else? Make sure you project the voice, right?
No, I'm okay. I'll just,
Bit of respect for Joey here.
time,
Time, yeah?
money, not supported people and friends like that. Yeah.
Okay. Not having a good support network?
Yeah, support network. Mm-hmm.
Lack of confidence or not.
Yeah. You guys hear that? Lack of confidence, not taking risks.
Grades in school and how well you do.
Yep, grades for sure.
Also with lack of opportunities.
Yeah, lack of opportunities.
Motivation, skill, and support.
Okay.
And decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good.
Okay, we have financial problems. Victoria rent sucks. Getting a job, education, Chrissy Clark, being young, increasing prices, being broke, and then modern technology, no connection, and people.
Okay. All great answers, but I'm wondering, where does Christy Clark come
No money. It's hard to get noticed. That's the second one. It's hard to get a good university and receive a good education, so like business skills. And we should know some people that have common goals as us.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a good one. Awesome. Good. Okay, next group there.
Alright, so for the reasons why people are being stopped from being successful, we chose that a lack of passion and a lack of motivation and competition. And we also think that competition is really important for accomplishing success. And we also choose lack of optimism and lack of support.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
Okay, Pete. I love the way everyone so enthusiastically stands up there to read out their answer.
So we choose lack of sleep, no experience.
Sorry, did you say lack of sleep?
Yeah.
Awesome, I love that.
No experience and misled perspective.
So just curious, guys. You guys heard a lot of commonalities, right? I heard financial concerns, right? Lack of support, that can be financial support, it can be people support from lack of family maybe, lack of friends, right? What else did we hear that was very common? Money, yeah. Money always seems to be up there, right? Money can be very positive, it can also be very negative. So I'll just start by saying, guys, before I get into my down my soapbox, right? So every one of you as individuals, every one of you guys in each group, there's no wrong answer here. The concerns that you guys voiced, when I think back to when I was in your shoes, exactly the same. Nothing's changed, right? 30 plus years later, it's the same concerns. You always think you don't have enough money. You always think you don't have enough resources. There's that self-doubt, right? And that's very common. And that's what I'm here to tell you. Right? When I look at my situation, I feel very blessed and fortunate that I was chosen as one of the alumni. But when I look at what I've accomplished since I left Spectrum, I don't think it's anything that special that a lot of my other peers and colleagues have done, right? You guys all have the same concerns, right? That lack of confidence. You never think you're good enough. You never think you're popular enough. You never think you have enough friends. You don't have enough money. You don't have enough friends on Instagram. You don't get enough likes on Instagram, right? These are all real things that happen. When I decided to come to Spectrum, it was a pretty rash decision. So my background is my dad was a second generation vegetable farmer. We grew up pretty poor. You know, harvesting vegetables is not a great way to make a living. So it wasn't a surprise. You know, in my family there's 3 boys and 1 sister. So amongst the 4 of us, as we were, you know, even before we were teenagers, we were working on the farm all summer. As our friends went off to the park to play or to the beach to enjoy the summers, we'd be working in the fields, and we thought, what the hell are we doing this for, right? Our friends are out having fun, and here we're slaving away in the dust and hot dirt. But, you know, when I reflect back now in terms of what we had to do, that gave us our grounding, the work ethic, that drive, the determination. And from my parents, who basically, if you know anyone who's a farmer, I doubt you'll find much tougher jobs. If you can do farming, you can do anything, right? Farming, there are no set hours, right? When the sun comes up, you start work. When the sun goes down, sometimes you're still working. There would be times when we're out in the fields, working in the dark with the headlights of the pickup truck shining into the fields as we harvested onions, beets, carrots, whatever it may be, whatever it took to get that order out the next day. So if you miss it, you know, they're not ordering again. So we were taught very young that, you know, if you want to make it, you got to be able to pick up your socks and fend for yourself, so to speak, right? No one's there. That you can't always rely on somebody to help you out, right? Not the government, not other individuals. You rely on your work ethic and your attitude. And that's something still to this day probably I value the most. I teach, I coach soccer, hockey, baseball. That's 2 things I always tell all the boys I coach. 2 things in life you guys have control over. It doesn't matter how smart you are, how educated you are, how wealthy you are. There's 2 things. It doesn't matter if you want to be a garbage man. It doesn't matter if you want to be a doctor, right? What do you think the 2 things you guys have 100% control over? Anyone else? You guys pick it every day. Every day you wake up out of bed, you guys pick these 2 things. Every time you're given a task, whether it be on the sports field, in the classroom, chores at home, you guys pick this. Right? Anyone know? Anyone guesses?
Oh, yes or no?
Yes or no? Yeah, I've never heard it that way, but okay, yeah, you're right. Whether you're going to do it or not, but if you're like my son, I've got 13, 14-year daughter, I know what it's like, right? It's not what they say, it's how you say it. It's about the attitude, right? You pick your attitude in every single situation, how you react to the situation, good or bad, right? In life, you're going to have days, you're going to have periods of your life, whether it be now, you know, you may get dumped by your boyfriend, girlfriend, you may get fired from a job. It's how you react to that, right? There's one of my favorite sayings is in life, you're going to get kicked and knocked down. It's going to happen. It's very rare. I haven't talked to anyone who's never been through that situation. The key is, do you let it kick you down and you stay down, or do you let it kick you forward, right? And change and adapt accordingly. So that's the attitude. What else do you guys control? Okay. Anyone else? The other is your effort level, right? Work ethic, I call it. So same thing when I coach my hockey team. Obviously, like any other sports, you have huge variance of great players and average players. I said, you know, obviously you can't expect the average player to be at where the high skilled player is. But what I can expect is that they're given that same effort level, right? They may not get the same results. The worst skater on the team may not score all the goals, but if he's, you know, working his ass off on the ice, that's what matters. Right? So you think about those 2 things. Doesn't matter what you do. If you bring that work ethic, that level of determination, effort in whatever you decide to do, right? The rest looks after itself, and you're positive. With when you think about, and I know a lot of you guys will be in this boat in terms of, my God, what am I going to do in my career? What am I going to do? All these choices. What post-secondary schools do I go to? And what classes do I take? You know, it can be very daunting, right? But you'll know the right time when you find something that you're passionate about, that it doesn't feel like work, and that's what it really should be. I've been involved now with House Nice 2 years. I started part-time when I was in high school still, right? It wasn't, when I did the chef's training program, it wasn't a planned thing that I wanted to do, just, you know, life takes you different paths, and you have to be adaptable to that. When I started chef's training, my goal, like a lot of people who are in cook's training, was yeah, I'll have my own restaurant one day, or I'll have my own catering company one day, but, you know, you have to be real and ask yourself tough questions as you go through the process in terms of what do I want out of life, right? And that's why we'll also now focus on the second part of the thing is what does success mean to you guys, right? So now we'll reverse, we'll start at this end here. So we'll hear what do you guys define as success?
Money, happiness,
Money, happiness,
and good buddies.
good buddies. Good buddies, very important. Okay, guys?
So being able to be happy after retire and
Okay.
not having regrets after
Yeah.
retirement or dying happily. without
Yeah,
any regrets.
great one. No regrets, absolutely. It's a big motto I go by. Guys?
Motivation and achieve our dreams and have money, enjoy our own life.
Okay, have control of your own life. Money. Money is a big common one I hear.
Money, happiness, and fulfillment.
Okay, money, happiness, fulfillment. Good.
Money, confidence, motivation, opportunity, passion.
Okay, good. Passion. Again, money's in there. Which is one group that doesn't have money in there.
Happiness, money, achieving your goals and your dreams, having a supportive family, a good education, confidence, no regrets.
Good. No regrets. Love it. Good.
Your happiness, no regrets, feeling accomplished and proud, and the job to be sturdy and reliable.
Yep. Good. Again, a lot of different answers, but a lot of commonality, right? Everyone thinks, I think, to a person that money is the key driver, right? That money fixes everything. Well, it's not often the case. I mean, all you have to do is look at Donald Trump. He's got lots of money. Doesn't make him a good person, right? Success is defined in many different ways, and again, I'll tie it back to how you guys feel now, right? It's different for everyone. Don't put too much pressure on yourselves to feel that what your best friend or your neighbor does is benchmarked of where you need to be, right? Everyone has a different idea of success. If you ask somebody who lives in Ethiopia what their definition of success is, it's just having food on the table, right? Different than us. You know, we have first world problems here in North America, right? You know, if on that note, I tell all of you and I encourage all of you, traveling is one of the best things you can do in your lifetime. It gives you a much better appreciation for what you have, and it's just a great learning experience. Right? There's no beating learning, you know, in the school system, whether it be high school or university or college, right? You're going to get a lot of theory information, a lot of textbook, but, you know, street smarts, there's a lot to be said for that, right? Just common sense things that you learn as you travel independently or as a group. So going back to tying it back in, so the reason I asked you guys those two questions is because same things, if you had asked me the question, you know, 30 plus years ago, I would have said similar things, but, you know, it changes as you go through life, as you find someone, you get married, your priorities change, and you have to be flexible in terms of what it takes you to do. Right? But only you yourselves know what true success is, right? For me, it's obviously money is on everyone's radar, but it's health and happiness. Because without the way I look at it is, if you only had one out of two, would you rather be a miserable old bastard with lots of money with poor health, right? Or would you be healthy, happy, vibrant, and not so rich, right? Everything's relative in that regards. Okay. Going back to my experience, so even in school, and I mentioned this this morning to a couple of the other classes, right? You guys have phenomenal opportunity. This is a phenomenal school. When I came here, it was a very rushed decision, and I decided to come here from Reynolds. I had no intentions of ever leaving Reynolds. Reynolds then was 8 to 12. So in grade 10, I learned about the Cook's Training Program, and I'd always thought that's something maybe I'd like to do as a career, so I jumped at the opportunity. And because I registered so late, I ended up having to wait next year before I got into the program, but I made the switch immediately. And, you know, and similar to you guys, the key theater schools were, you know, Colquitts and Shoreline. That makes up, I'd say, like 80% of the students easily back when I came here. And coming from Reynolds, there were only about me and 4 other colleagues that came here. So it's pretty daunting, right? Only 5 of us that know each other. Yet you have all these hundreds of students that all know each other from Colquitt's and Shoreline, right? It's a huge advantage. But the teachers were so great, and the structure and overall people were so great, the integration was pretty much seamless. And this is, I would say, similar to you guys. I felt pretty lost, I would say, even in grade 10. You're not sure what you want to do, where you want to go, and what you're going to do in life, because you have to start thinking about making decisions like that. But when I came here, what I did, Cook's training got me involved in a different level, but the other key factors that I think really gave me that confidence was getting involved in sports. I played on the rugby team. I'd never done that before. It's a phenomenal experience. Students Council, I encourage you, if you don't already, it's not just for geeks and nerds, but you know, it was probably one of the funnest times of my life. I was the activities coordinator for a year, got to organize dances, got to organize, maybe it may go down as history as the first and last dance. We called it Dash for Cash, and I got in a lot of trouble for it because, you know, I was the type that I wanted to do things very spontaneous and make it as big as possible that people talk about it. So we dropped balloons down from the ceiling of the gym filled with money, right, Dash for Cash, and we set a set time where we drop all this money down on the stage. But we thought, hey, for fun, how can we ramp it up and make it even funner, right? So let's give people an experience. So we filled a bunch of balloons with flour and also confetti. So of course you can imagine what happened when these balloons, you know, people popped and confetti went everywhere, flour went everywhere, and then the amount of crap we got into the following Monday after the dance was incredible. And I heard that was going to be the last time they ever let anyone do a dance of that nature. But there's tons of opportunity here in front of you, right? Get involved in whatever you can, right? And the other thing, actually, I was glad to hear a couple of people talk about what success means is having good buddies, having good support network. I can't stress it enough, you know, some of my best friends that I have now, 30 plus years later, are people that I met at the school, right? They were my best men at my wedding, you know, they come to my kids' baptisms. These are lifelong relationships. You look across from some people you're with now, 30, 40 years from now, you'll be sitting with them with their kids, and it's a pretty surreal experience. So you guys may have heard this before, but in general, as you network with your friends, right, you become the average of the people you hang around with. So think about that for a minute, right? So there's some really good takeaways when you think about that, but there's also some negatives, right? Make sure you're being influenced by the right type of people that you want to aspire to be, right? If you want to be, I use the example of sports all the time because I coach a lot of athletes. So if you want to be a better player, you want to practice with the best kid on the team or the weakest, right? Some people almost have the mentality that, oh, I'll practice with the weakest kid because I can, you know, show off my skills and really dominate that kid, right? But if you truly want to make yourself better, shoot higher, not lower, right? Always use the example of looking at people who are better than you and aspire to be like, right? That's how you make yourself better. Doesn't matter if you're playing sports or you're in school or anything you do, right? For me, when people ask me how do I define success, the more I look at it now, I'm not that old, but you think about your legacy in terms of, you know, how you'll be remembered. But for me, it's about being involved in community, giving back to others, right? As well as just being a good all-around person, right? Be someone that your kids one day will be proud to look up to. Some of your colleagues will be proud to be around, right? Just being a good person. And there's not enough good people in the world. You can never have enough good people, right? There's all kinds of crazy crap going on in the world between, you know, whether it be North Korea or what's happening in the U.S. or Las Vegas, right? There's a lot of bad stuff going on. So always hold yourself to that higher level, right? And you'll be pretty good that way. Any questions? Right, so, well, one thing I can tell you, and I remember this is advice from a banker friend I talked to many years ago. He said to me, he goes, so this fellow here worked for a major bank, and he was responsible for authorizing loans to potential entrepreneurs who wanted funding for their new business or existing business to grow. And I said to him, I said, Ken, what's the number one thing you're looking for? You know, a potential entrepreneur. What's the deciding factor, whether or not you give them the money or not? And he said, apart from the obvious, which is, you know, do they have enough collateral, this and that, the big intangible that they look at is their level of tenacity. Right? You guys know what that tenacity means? How do you guys define tenacity? Anyone Anyone know? Who can define it for me? How do you hear that phrase? You hear it a lot in sports, right? A guy may lose the puck and he's tenacious in getting the puck back. In my mind, my definition of tenacity is you will do whatever it takes in order to reach the goal. You lose that puck, you'll bleed, right? We talk about high-level athletes even, that sacrifice, that level of tenacity. Their answer when they say, hey, do you want to win the Stanley Cup? What are you willing to do to win Stanley Cup? They'll say whatever it takes. That's that level of tenacity where nothing's going to stop you, right? You have to have that level of belief in yourself, even though others may prove you wrong or doubters will say, no, you can't do that, that won't work, right? If you have that level of belief, you need that level of tenacity in whatever it takes. And a great show that I always watch, maybe some of you guys watch it too, it's great learning, there's tons of learning to be had from it, is Dragon's Den and Shark Tank. When you look at the entrepreneurs that come on that show, and their challenge in terms of what they're doing and how they're doing it, that's an awesome show to watch, right? You watch the people who are successful in that show, they show that level of tenacity, that whatever it takes attitude. Never quit, never give up, never die. I heard someone say a throwing knife, right? So this is in case any of you guys in the back are getting a little bit sleepy here. I can throw this thing at least 20 feet, right? So a throwing knife is perfectly balanced. It has no function in the kitchen, but it's just for fun. Something I like to take camping. Anyway, starting with a small knife. So a small, anyone know what style knife this is? It's a little paring knife, right? So paring knives are typically about anywhere from 3 to 4 inches length of the blade. Knives are always measured by the length of the blade, not the overall length of the knife itself. So this is about 3.5 inches. What would you use this for? What could you use this for? Grapes. Grapes? Yeah, you could. Yeah, really skilled person will peel grapes with it. What else?
Yes.
Small fruits, vegetables, right? Your
Broccoli stuff.
pears, yeah, oranges, apples, all types of functions. So when we get into some of the larger blades here, anyone know what this is? This is a form of a chef's knife. It's basically categorized as a Japanese chef's knife. It's what they call a santoku knife. So very similar to the chef's knife. So the difference is just in the physical shape and size of the blade. So in general, santoku knives are sharpened to a sharper angle, so they're cut thinner for you than a chef's knife. A chef's knife is more of a multi-purpose knife, right? Because of its shape of the blade, it allows a better rocking motion on the bearing board here. So as we talked about the chef's knife, this is the workhorse in the kitchen. These are all different brands and different varieties of the chef's knife, but they all are very similar in terms of design. So one of the real benefits of a chef's knife is its wide blade. Does anyone know why this is beneficial? If I was to, let's say I pick 2 knives here, both are similar length, and I wanted to do some cutting with them, what's the advantage of the chef's knife over a knife of this nature? Does anyone know?
The rounded front, how much shorter you can do better than cut flip and corner cut.
Sorry, so it cuts better?
It's rounded more than the other one, and it's a bit bigger, so you can make bigger cuts all around.
Yeah, for larger foods, you're right, the wider blade. The main benefit of this is if, and I see this all the time, and it's one of those things, nobody has enough time these days, right? I'm sure you guys feel the same way. It doesn't matter what age you are, what demographic you are, we live such busy lifestyles now, right? So if you have the right tools to your job, you can work more efficiently. So narrow, or what I call narrow style blades that don't have width to them, right? The problem is I don't know if you guys can see this well, but if I'm working on a cutting surface, right? It's hard for me to utilize that whole length of that blade because my knuckles actually hit on the cutting board. I only utilize the full length of the blade if I'm off the cutting board like this. Right? Whereas a chef style knife gives you the width of the blade and it gives us what we call knuckle clearance. So that way I can hold the knife and I can work directly on the cutting board with it quickly and efficiently. Right? The other main advantage of having a chef style knife is a nice wide blade allows you to act as a guide, if you will. Because one of the most important things I'll show you guys is even so many people have a good knife at home, but they don't actually even hold the knife properly to utilize it in the proper function. There's 2 main ways to hold a knife. Who here has used knives regularly, like a chef style knife? Just curious, how would you hold this knife when you use it?
Just like this?
Like that?
Yeah.
Not bad. So that's kind of what we call a hammer style grip. So he kind of held it like this, right? Like he would a hammer. So with knives, they are a quality tool in your kitchen. So you don't want to hold it like hammer and use it like a hammer by any means, right? It would be the most expensive hammer you ever use. This knife here is about $250. This is a Shun Classic knife here. So with a knife, you want to hold it using a proper, what they call pinch grip technique. So ideally with all cook's knives, you want to hold it so your middle index finger is at the balance point of the knife. And that's what we call a pinch grip, just like this. It's more of a natural extension of your arm in your hand. It will fatigue your wrist less. Because for example, if I was using this knife and holding it like a hammer, all the weight is in the blade here. So when I have to go use this knife, if I want to, pull the blade up, I actually have to use more strength in my wrist to pull it up and down. Versus if I pinch grip it and it's balanced, that knife works for me. We have any pins there? So. And their advantage too, when you're holding the knife in the balance point here, even when you're mincing and dicing, it makes it very easy. Because if you hold it even like this, again, you're using more strain on your wrist. Some other important tips when you're working with a knife is, it's always, it's very common. I see this is when you're cutting with a knife, most of the cutting you want to do is from the heel portion, the first half of the blade, not the last half. I see a lot of people working or trying to work cutting with a knife where they're just cutting like this. And there's nothing wrong with it. It works and it functions, but the problem is you don't have as much blade to work with. When you have the width of the blade, ideally when you're cutting, safely, one of the first things that you want to teach yourself when working with a knife is not so much what to do with the knife hand that holds the knife, but what to do with the hand that's not holding the knife. So you want to practice this kind of what we call crawl technique, where the thumb's always hidden behind your fingers, not exposed out where you can do some damage. But you're basically curling your knuckles, and this first knuckle is where the guide is for your knife. So when you're doing cutting with it, right, it acts as a guide. So whether you're doing with food or not, you can work very quickly and efficiently with it. It basically guides what you're doing, how thick you want to go, or how thin you want to go. So one of the things I'm going to show you, that's my Michael Jackson love. So for my kids, they started learning how to cut with a knife probably when they were about 8 years old, and this was a main tool I used for them. So this is a cut-resistant glove here. I can take any knife here, and it'll protect my hand from any accidents. Now, what it won't protect me from is any sharp-pointed objects going into the glove, but it's a great tool to protect your fingers. So the great thing with cooking is in our household, and I think a lot of households, it can be a great family event, right? You can cook together. So when we make large meals at home, all four of us will be in the kitchen, my daughter, my son, and everyone's doing a different task, right? It's hard to find time, I'm sure you guys live busy schedules with your soccer, your volleyball, your hockeys, whatever's going on. So it's rare to have a family moment where everyone's actually eating at the same time if it's like our family. Everyone's eating at different times. So it's nice to have an event where everyone can do something together because it becomes rarer and rarer. Any questions, guys, on the chef's knife? So this is an 8-inch. So again, we measure from the full length of the blade, right from the heel right to the tip, 8 inches. That's the most common. They come anywhere from 6 inches up to even 14 inches if you can believe it, but this by far is the most common. Next thing we're going to talk about, actually, you know what? Let's start cutting up some stuff. Let's have some fun. We'll grab some samples here. Phil, was there going to be a student that was going to do some work along here too?
I'm not sure. Be careful. If we had someone.
Anyone want to be a guinea pig and come up and do some cutting?
Someone in here.
I guess I could.
Here we go.
I think it was supposed to be one of the cooks.
Somebody else put their hand up. I mean, I can go up.
You're dressed for it.
I mean, like, I already put my stuff on. Might as well.
You're dressed for it. So that's
There's a lot more people
So I'll see you in the cook's training. I'll see you in the cook's training program.
Always in there, never.
Alright.
Well,
Are you in the
eventually.
first year of it?
I'm in the first year of it.
First year. Enjoying it so far?
Oh, it's great. It's great. I'm really glad I went.
Good. So you're gonna have your own restaurant one day? Is that the goal?
I mean, like, I'm more into art myself, but like, I don't mind cooking.
Good. So let me show you a few different tricks here.
Okay.
So how proficient are you with the knife?
I'm trying to get better at it.
Trying
I
to get
wouldn't say
better
that
at
I'm super proficient at
Okay.
it.
Do you want to try out one of our gloves here? Just in case?
Oh god.
There's something, there's that awful L word that I hear what's called liability. That you just have to worry about. So you're right-handed?
Yes.
Okay, so you're going to put this on your left here. So you can choose. The space here first. So what type of knife do you use?
Usually I've just been using whatever chef knife I have in there. I'm not sure
okay.
what kind of chef knife that is.
Can I
not
guess?
in-
Is it black handle? Silver.
It's
blade?
one of the ones with the guide for the placement of the finger. That's
Right,
what they
push the
usually
finger.
Well, there's some that have like the handle comes forward and makes a little bit of a crease for the finger.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those.
Kind of help you. Okay. So the great thing is this is like test driving a car, so you can have your choice of a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, whatever floats your boat here. So I'll give you the choice of which tool you want to use.
These
So,
knives are worth more than I am. You
Yeah.
want
and you know, the scary thing is that they'll live longer than you as well.
That's true.
You know, one of the great things is we as a company make a very conscious effort to keep on top of the technology. So, for example, Wusthof, the great thing is that it's such a great story. Number one, it's still a family-owned business, 7 generations later for over 200 years. You know, I heard the stat one time that most family businesses never get past the second generation. Like, I think 80% of them fail, never get beyond the 2 generation. So they celebrated their 200th anniversary 2 years ago, and their 7 generations still going family-owned and operated. So there's a lot of history there. They're crazy about knives, knife fanatics. So we've got a Wusthof here from Germany. This is great because it's forged from solid bar steel, where you have these beautiful Japanese knives. A lot of bling on those. Right? So take your pick.
I mean, like, I really like this.
Okay. You
It's
can
a
use that.
Japanese knife.
You can use that. Japanese knives in the marketplace have hit in a huge way in the last 10 years. Prior to the Japanese knives coming to market, the dominating players were Henko's and Wusthof in the world. But Japanese knives, if you guys never have that experience, are just different. So, you know, one of the obvious differences, as you can see from the screen above, is the thickness of the blade in terms of how they're finished. So, in general terms, Japanese knives are of a harder blade, what we call a rockwell hardness. So the edge actually stays sharp longer. That being said, the downfall is because they're thinner and harder, they can also be brittle. So you have to, you know, attend to them with more care. The analogy we always use is having a good European knife like the Wusthof is like having a sport utility vehicle. This is like having a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, right? It's a different experience. And the sexiness of them is awesome because when we first started carrying these, a lot of people thought, oh my God, you know, this is just a bunch of etching on the blade. But technically, both these knives are made from 69 layers of steel. It has what we call a high VG max high carbon steel core, supported by 34 layers on either side of the blade. So when they grind the knife, it's exposing all the layers of steel that are there, just like you'd find in wood grain. So yeah. So okay. So what we're going to show you guys. So here's a good example, right? Instead of having one of these in your lunchbox, we're going to show you how you can have a real piece of fruit in your lunchbox that's healthy for you. And you know, obviously, I always say, and my kids are again a good example where quite often I'll be like, anyone do you like having some oranges, right? And then they look at it, and the first thing, you know, as humans, we're lazy, right? It's like there's a reason why remote controls exist for everything and anything, right? So I'll say, anyone want orange? They look at it, and if you're like me, I think, what the hell? I don't want to peel that orange. It's going to dirty up my fingernails. It's going to make a mess. But once I cut up the orange, I say, who wants an orange? And everyone puts up their hand, right? Just like there's a reason why when people go on a cruise, they eat a lot because of the buffet. The food's there, right? It's instant. So I'm going to show you here how we're going to cut this. So, you know, how would you normally cut an apple if you're going to pack this?
Usually I dice it. Well, not exactly dice it. I'd maybe quarter it.
I'd say that's one most common, right? Quarter it, meaning you're going to cut it in half and cut it in half again, and then cut out the quarter, right? So I'm going to show you a nice, easy way to do it. So what we're going to do is cut it like a tic-tac-toe pattern. So grab it up here.
Sorry, how are you holding this again? Can you just run me through that real quick? I just want to like, see, I know how to hold it somewhat, but then I get up here and hold it, I'm like, oh god, what am I doing?
So this is that pinch grip, right?
So
see the thumb there, fingers wrapped around. Right? It's more of a natural extension here. So one of the things, regardless of what you're cutting, is safety. Especially something like this that's round, right? So obviously you can roll around. So you always try and look for the greatest surface area, put that down, so minimize that movement. So what we're going to do is make one cut along the side of the cord. And do a parallel cut on the other side of the cord. Actually, ideally, I would keep that
together. I'm realizing.
At least you got it, right? So we're gonna
just dice it back together.
Yeah, good. So we'll give it a quarter turn, and then we're gonna do the same on the other side.
Sweet. I'm seeing tic-tac-toe now. Come on.
Good. Is the knife sharp enough? Do we need to hone that knife?
I think it might be okay. I think it just might be me.
You're okay?
It's probably me.
All right. So, you know, if you're doing proficiently, it takes maybe 10 seconds, right? And the great thing about this now, so you have this apple already all cut up for you, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about the cord getting stuck between your teeth. It's in the middle here. All you do is put an elastic band around this apple, right? It's not going to brown. It'll stay good for 3-4 hours, you know, basically until you have a break or lunch hour. Because obviously, what will happen to the apple if you expose it to oxygen during time?
It can brown and
yellow brown.
rot easier.
Yeah, it's just not nice, right? Let's face it, we live in a society, you eat with your eyes first before you do in your stomach, right? What you see visually, right, at a restaurant or anywhere else, if you don't like the way something looks, you're not likely going to enjoy it, right? It's a proven fact. So this will keep it from browning for 3 to 4 hours. If you put elastic band around, you got a healthy snap. It's real. Right? Make sense? Okay. So that's apple. So let's try something else. How's it go? Actually, is anyone like?
Yeah.
Here, you can pass it.
For Tang is like, I want the apple. Give me the apple. Must consume.
Okay.
You're doing then.
So oranges, just because it's easy. So I'm gonna have you guys going to segment. You don't do oranges on that?
Well, I'm sure.
That's gonna change next week, right?
There we go.
Oranges on the menu for everything. So oranges in principle will be the same as we're gonna tackle that watermelon there in a second. So I'm going to cut out the top portion as little as possible. You know, food is not getting any cheaper, so we minimize the waste. So top bottom. Good. Awesome. So what we're going to do here. Okay, good. So have you done this before, or are you going to follow along and take off the skin? Right?
Here, I might just like watch you a little bit.
Right.
Oh, this is
Just like that. Right, just follow along. That's your guide there. Right in there. So ideally, what you can do, Ollie, start from the heel of the blade and just do one cut. You can do the sawing motion to get comfortable with it. Like you can kind of do it like that. If you can, try to do one smooth motion. You learn the curvature of the one. How's it going?
I'm
It's
going
getting there.
somewhere.
It's getting there. Making progress. That's it. That's cool.
That works.
A for effort. So, any of you guys been to really fancy buffets at a restaurant, right? And you get these oranges already segmented for you. You think, oh wow, that's so cool. How do they grow oranges like that? Where can I buy them, right? So basically, this is how they do it, right? You're segmenting going between the membrane of each one. And just cutting that pure
I'm gonna
orange.
find them.
So one of the other things, and I always use this as an example, right? You can have Have you guys ever been to, I would say, more entry-level restaurants and ordered fruit salad and it comes to you on a plate and you may have a mixture of what honeydew, cantaloupe, pineapple, and you taste it, but nothing tastes like how it's supposed to be. It all tastes like nothing. Have you guys had that? Right? I think BC Ferries would be a good example of that. That comes to mind. So,
nobody eat on that anymore. Is anybody going to BC Ferries? Like, I can't wait to eat the food there.
yes. They're going up and making the crossing just for the buffet. Right?
Yeah, there you go.
It's not bad.
So a lot of entry-level restaurants, and I don't want to gross you guys out or anything, but so even for restaurants, right, different varying degrees of quality of restaurants, right? Even in the restaurant industry, you can buy a lot of things pre-made for you, right? So the packet, they add water to it, they add something to it, and it's food. So with a lot of fruit salad like that, it comes in a massive, like a 5-gallon pink container. Have you seen it? Yeah. So one of the known facts, like oranges or most fruit, once you cut an orange or cut an apple, right, oxygen oxidizes and vitamin C starts getting lost once you peel the orange, so you get less nutritional value with it. So a lot of times in this fruit salad, they throw in pineapple, honeydew, cantaloupe, whatever it may be. It's in a huge bucket, right? And it's been done weeks, maybe months ago, right? And so you imagine all this fruit all mixed up in this huge bucket. And that's why it tastes like nothing. Not only do you not have nutritional value left in it, but everything's all melded together with flavor. So when you taste the pineapple, it's like, why does this taste like honeydew? Or why does it taste like nothing? Question?
I never dine out. I usually just get like boxes of fruit, like cubes, from like Islands West yet.
Yeah.
My dad works there, so you get it like cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah, eating out's not always a healthy option for sure. I mean, the best thing is if you cook at home, eat at home, then you know exactly what's in your food. Let's do, let's tackle this. So here's a great known factor. How many of you guys love guacamole, love avocados? Do you know that one of the #1 kitchen-related injuries in hospital ER rooms is due to this avocado?
When you
the amount of injuries that they get and people cutting themselves and quite badly in some cases in ER rooms, #1 reason people go to hospital from kitchen-related injuries is the avocado. Oh, do you know how to?
I'm like, now that I'm up here, I'm starting to doubt everything that I possibly like everything that I can do. I'm like, oh, maybe I can't do that now. But I don't.
Who here has cut their own avocados?
I'm just like, I'm just being very like, I
So
would
what?
usually go around the. Do you want to just do it?
Sure, yeah.
Are we wasting an avocado? Is this like?
So basically, we've got the pit inside there.
Yeah.
Where you cut it and separate it. Good, great. So here's the challenge, right? Doing this part here. Good. Awesome. Textbook. So you can see how things can go radically wrong for a lot of people, right? Can you just imagine, right? Say, guy is home, use my throwing knife to get this avocado pit out of here.
Oh no!
Right?
People do that?
Yeah, that's the reason why it's the #1
Why?
incident. Going to the
Yours
urine.
right here.
Exactly. So you did perfectly. That's the easiest way to do it. So one of the other known facts, if you don't eat your whole avocado at once, you only have to. Do you know this trick about storing?
Teach me.
You can. Love the attitude. So if you're storing the avocado, not using it, right? Keep the pit in it. It won't brown. If you take the pit out, it will brown in your fridge. So store it with the pit in it. That's your known fact for today. We're doing time. We've got about 10 minutes to go here. What are you guys hungry for eating? Onions or watermelon?
Watermelon.
Garlic.
Who said onions?
We could have
Raw potatoes.
So always doing great here. So we'll continue on.
Yeah, I should probably like. It's a bit of a messy station. I'm just gonna give you my orange. Thank you.
So yeah, for sure. So watermelon, just think of it like a big orange.
We're doing the same thing.
Same thing.
What did I do? So
We'll start with the top and bottom, right? So
okay, I'm just trying to like remember. Okay, I know what I did. Sure. Is this gonna go through this watermelon? Oh my god, it will. What have you created? And then, oh god. So, and then, just want me to hawk up?
Yeah. So one thing is that even when we talk about the pinch grip, you'll find it more comfortable. It's just think of it like an artist with a paintbrush, right?
Yeah.
In terms of depending on how you use the knife, you'll grip it differently. So pinch grip, and then I find using it for myself, put my fingers out, and then you get more mobility with the knife. But that's the other reason why sometimes when you just hammer grip it, you're limited.
I'm like scared to use it. I know how expensive this thing is.
So always actually being very considerate. She wants you guys to get some extra fiber in your diet this morning. So we thought, why just give you the red part of the watermelon? We're going to give you the don't let anything go to waste.
It's the part that my mom specifically says don't eat, but I do it anyways. It is.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it, right?
It just tastes fresh. You know what? Let's just chop it. Please. I'm in front of people. Please do it correctly. No.
Getting there, really nice.
It's very,
You're not nervous, right?
Oh no, I'm totally not like incredibly socially nervous or anything. I did this to myself. Get some red in there. I've bored him, he's gone.
Yeah.
He's bringing the red up. Alright, that works. It's like a square soccer ball. It's a little ball.
Okay, that works. That's good to do this.
There we go.
So you can cube that up.
Sweet. To cube it?
Sure.
The base of it?
Yeah,
Okay.
whatever you like. So one of the things, when you're cutting food, right, if you think of it, this was probably the best advice that I heard. So think about when you're cutting food, especially large pieces like this,
Yeah.
like you're working with long, right? So
Okay.
planks and different pieces, right? So if you think about this, if this was a tree, how would we process this, right? So you can cut it into different widths and strips, and then from there you can. That's just go nice. Want to make a
Hey
swan?
audience, do you guys like thin slices of watermelon or cubes?
Cubes.
It's cubes. We're doing cubes now.
Perfect. Well, we didn't tell you after she cubes it, then we're just going to practice it.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, you in the back.
Oh, yeah, it's a hot
Yeah, these ones you can let go.
Something with this? Oh, jeez. Jordan, no. I don't. That's like satisfying. Oh no. That's not what I was talking about. It's all come apart. No. It's falling apart on me. But I'm getting it, I guess. I'll just, yeah, okay. Sure. Nice. pan. I'm gonna use that. That'd be nice. Oh, shit.
It'll be a watermelon with a little bit of orange sauce.
Just like a tiny little bit of orange in there.
And a little bit of what?
Good, right?
It's hard as well.
Looking good. Okay, let's toss.
Oh, thank you.
So when you're scraping the food off the board, right, you want to use the spine here so you don't dull the edge. Okay.
That was fun.
You guys can pass it around.
Eat what I've created.
Couple, I think there's enough for us.
I know how to do carrots.
Now, here's one of the great things when you think about versatility, right? I talked about, you know, for most people, if you only have one good knife in the kitchen, this is the style of knife you want, the chef's knife, because it can do so much, as we talked about. So one of the other great things you can do with chef's knife is you can peel the carrot with it.
Oh
You know how to peel
no.
the carrot with a chef's knife?
I'm sure it's somewhere along just doing this motion.
I won't say that yet, but you can actually keep the blade not quite like a slicing machine, but just like this, right? You know,
Oh my god. What background?
This is not a very attached carrot. It's very
You like weird carrots? I got them.
One of the great things for those of you guys, especially in the Cooks Training Program, the great thing with the industry is, right, you can find work around the world. You just travel around with your little case of knives and you can find work wherever you travel.
I'm so much better than the others. I'm lagging behind. This way? Oh. Here we go. Found my style a little bit.
Oh, yeah, you can do that, right? That way you have to do
Thin strips.
This is a very good carrot. I don't know if it's going to be very good.
Man, I'll eat it. What the hell we did get done?
So even like we talked about, right, when you're cutting food, it's a plank style. So even this carrot, when you make the carrot sticks, I want to cut it into as if like, you know, basically.
For 1 second, it's already diced.
So once you have the food in planks, right, there's a lot of versatility. You want those carrot sticks, you're just going to, you know, cut them lengthwise. If I want to dice this, and it's the same process.
That's somewhat hard. I've made a lot of chunks. Guys, this way, this way.
So if you wanted to do sticks, right, so determine what knife you want to cut your sticks. So you can here, you can do a small cut, you know, flat surface to work off of. And then you cut it here, planks, the different widths. Ideally, this finger always Okay, good, good. What time are we finished at, Phil? What time are we done? What time's it end, you guys?
do 15 minutes.
15 minutes, thank you. 15.
Oh, we have 15 minutes.
For what?
We can do all kinds of things. That's what we do. Safety is very paramount, right? I think it's one of the reasons why people get intimidated working with knives. So even something as basic, and especially you guys who are just training, like you guys been taught when you walk around the kitchen with a knife by me.
Look, we usually say sure.
How do you carry the knife when you walk through the kitchen? That's it. So knife, you're always walking through a kitchen anywhere, right? Tip pointed down, edge away from you, right? So garlic, probably, other than onions, probably the most common used vegetable in all cultures. So there's not much that's good that you don't use garlic, right? So what I'm going to show you how to do is how to use this. Okay. So how would you got So here's a good example. Like a lot of you guys, how many of you guys know, maybe your parents do, buy garlic already minced up? Okay. A lot of people do now, right? Everything can be instant gratification. Buy jarred garlic already pre-minced. We do this mixed with oils already. Right? So always remember, right? Natural is always better than non-natural. Fresh is always better than non-fresh. So garlic, what we'll often do at home is, because it's one of those things you almost use with anything and everything, you can pre-mince it up, right? And then a good way to store it is with oil in a small jar. Right? How preserve it. If you don't, it doesn't look very nice. So again, safety. So I'll show you the quickest, easiest way to do garlic here. So we're going to cut it right down the middle. So one thing is, I'll show you. When you're
What's at the bottom?
So when you're doing cutting, so that's a good example. I'll show you here. Wait, what's it got?
Where did I'll give up.
When you're cutting through something very difficult, right? Instead of just trying to guillotine the style here, always keep the tip of the knife on the cutting board, right? That's your stability. Same thing when you got something heavy and hard like this, because we're trying to go through the core here, right? Keep the blade planted here and stable, and then you're just pressing down on it. Because if you're not doing it that way and you're trying to do it this way, then knife slips and accidents can happen, right? So pivot your blade, steady it, and then just press down.
Please! And here comes the part where I'm very physically weak.
That garlic's on steroids, I think.
Yeah. You give me.
You're very close. You soften it up. So, if you guys, how many of you guys have tried peeling garlic before?
I think so.
Yeah.
What's the challenge with it?
It's kind of sticky and gross.
Very sticky, right? And it's not, I mean, some people would say it smells, but some people love the smell of garlic, but it gets messy, right? The juices are very sticky and everything's sticky too. So I'm going to show you how to separate it very easily. So you've got the two main parts you want to deal with here. Is this heavy, thick core here at the bottom, right? So once you cut in half, you can visually now see how much of this core needs to come out. Because I've seen people do it all kinds of crazy ways where they try to cut it out. And again, that's probably number 2 on the ER list after avocados, right? So you want to cut off this core portion here to loosen up all the peel here. So we're gonna go right across the top here and take that off. And the other cut we're going to make is on the top here, because what's holding that membrane together is the top and bottom of the looking good, awesome. Right? So now, because if you don't take out those two and you try to separate this, it's very challenging. So once you've got top and bottom off, it basically separates itself. So what we're going to do here is paste the garlic. How many of you guys have a garlic press at home or use garlic press? Okay. So just curious, why do you use the garlic press instead of using your knife? Why do people like garlic presses? For the reasons we talked about, right? It's not sticky in your hand, it's easy, right? So I'm going to show you with a knife how we can achieve the same results. So what you do here, again, this is the advantage of having a nice wide blade of your chef's knife, right? just pound with it. So we're going to take our knife here and just take a little whack there, right? And then it just comes right off, right? We're done. We don't even have to get our hands sticky.
I feel like I've
You
just
won't
like
hurt
killed the
it.
blade.
Now some people would do it that way too. You can just push your knife down, you know, tip down, and you can just until you hear it kind of crack. Well, I prefer this method. This helps
There we go.
with stress release. Should just shake it and it comes up. You good?
Yes, yeah, no, I'm getting a lot of that.
Good? Okay, so let's do all that. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Are we gonna cook with them?
Unfortunately, we didn't have enough time. I planned, we'll probably next, I was planning actually to do some garlic bread. There's nothing like fresh garlic.
Oh, I feel so good right now.
How do you know? So once we've got our garlic all separated from puree, we just got garlic on it. And it's closed. We can give it a quick little, just what we call coarse mince, right? Just go through and chop. So same thing, we're doing that to breakfast roll. And if you're going to go full on dice that garlic, right? So you're going to hold like that, the balance point, and you will.
Just starting out here, not
Next cupboard over, closest to the paper towel dispenser. Salt. Yeah.
Oh, I did something a lot.
Okay, that's perfect. So what we're going to do here is paste the garlic.
Okay.
Have you done this before?
No.
No. So most recipes anyways, you're not adding extra salt to your recipe. Most recipes, 99% of them is also salt anyway. So why are we adding the salt to this garlic? Do you know?
Yeah, we did it the other day. It's like for, so traction, I guess you would call it. To the dog with.
Oh, I know what. So it's easier to crush. Sorry.
Not something called abrasion. It adds abrasion, right? Think of it like sandpaper. Right? Same idea. So what we're going to do is utilize the blade now. Right? This is the versatility of having this nice wide blade, and we're going to pivot the tip of the knife down. And we're going to use the face of the blade and paste this garlic down because it mixes with the salt.
He's moving sauce on his eyebrows.
So when you're done, you have the same effect as you do with garlic. Speed is not critical. So what you want to do, start from one side here, pivot that way, and just each little bit of garlic, right? This is the motion you're using here. Yeah, let's give you a bit more salt. Okay. How's it coming out?
There's still chunks. See,
So-
you've made me look like a fool.
So the key is you just have to get that blade flat, right? So if you have your thumb this out, right? Have your perfectly flat, right? Same thing with your whiskey, right? And making sure whatever is there. Yeah, just do a little bit at a time. Try to do the whole thing. Has anyone here made fresh garlic bread, actually using fresh garlic? right? Isn't it like there's nothing better, right? Like for fun, I bought this last night. I never buy this. I bought this. So when you make fresh garlic bread, you only need 2 ingredients, right? So what are the ingredients?
Bread, garlic,
and butter, right? So, Aiden, you can be my helper in here. So, read the ingredients here after it says garlic spread.
Oh, garlic what?
Garlic spread.
Oh, margarine, vegetable oil, palm oil, canola oil, modified palm oil, water, vegetable, 1 officer iron.
Again, there's a lot of weird words in there that you've never seen before, you can't pronounce, right? So again, there's additives and preservatives in everything we buy in food, right? So the more there is, the less good it is for you.
Except for the tomato.
Yes.
What are you going to do with that bread after you finish your presentation?
Oh, we've got one at 11 o'clock, so if you come back down, we'll have tons of garlic bread.
I feel so happy, but I'm busy. Oh yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm
You
good.
guys come
I'm
back?
not lunch, so no. It's all right.
Looking better, looking better.
Still not sure about it. Is this the motion?
No, you want to pin it that way.
So I'm like
So don't let the tip come off the board.
anybody want to Good job.
Better, right? Alright, that's good.
Alright, yeah.
Hey guys, we're running out of time now, so let's give Ollie a big hand for coming up.
Oh, my hand's sticky. There it is.
Hey guys, we're just wrapping up here in a few minutes here, so any questions, guys?
Wait, can I go through this way?
Sure. Hand
Oh
up.
no, I'll do it. I'll do it.
Oh, okay. Guys, in closing, apart from hopefully you guys learned something here today. As I tell a lot of my staff, I've got 30 plus years of a lot of information in my head that doesn't always seem relevant. But I guess my word of advice to you guys, and I think part of the purpose of having these alumni events is, you know, I've been in your shoes before, my kids are going through it as well. Being in high school is not an easy time, right? There's a lot of pressures going on in your life, right? From peer pressures, from your parents, from all over the place. So, you know, I guess my advice to you guys is don't stress out too much about it, right? You'll work through it. You know, we all have different successes, and you know, on that note, as I told Phil, I feel very honored and blessed and humbled by being recognized as an alumni, because when you think about it, the thousands of students that have gone through the school over the last 40 plus years, I don't believe I've done anything really that special that any of my other peers have done. And you guys will all get there too. Success means different things to different people. Success isn't about having the most money, having the fanciest cars or fanciest homes, right? You guys have to find that level of success for yourself. It's different for everyone, and don't always hold yourself to standards of others, because what works for one person may not work for another person. Through my time, both high school, elementary school, I was a pretty average student from academics. You know, versus my brother, he had straight A's and everything. He was the golden child. He could do no wrong, and I'd be lucky if I got, you know, a couple A's per report card. But you kind of have to find your place. Right? For me, it was, you know, coming to Spectrum was a great environment. You guys are really blessed, and you know, when I first came here, this was a really cutting-edge school, and I still believe, from what I hear, it still is. So you guys have a great opportunity, but really maximize your opportunity, right? Get involved. For me, I think part of the turning point for me was not only in the fixed training program, but also getting involved in Students' Council, the rugby team. There's so many opportunities made available to you guys. not just in high school, but even as you get out through life, right? Really take advantage of those things because those opportunities open up doors to other opportunities, right? If not for Cook's training and that House of Knives, I would have never met my wife. So there's great opportunities to be had all over, right? Personally, professionally. So things will work itself out.
Thank you, Andre.
Yeah, question? yeah. At 11 o'clock class, we'll have tons of garlic bread here. Yeah, I think 11:35 is the next session.
Yeah, whatever period 3 is.
Yeah, at the end of period 3, we'll have.
Yeah,
come back down.
I'll do that because I'm just coming straight here for class, like over
Sure.
there, so. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I know this is off topic, but what kind of car do you drive?
Okay, I've got an Acura MDX, 2010. I wish it was newer, but we can't try that other thing.